All right, everyone. Welcome to the Go.Live Gaming Podcast on the 23rd of June. Is it June already? It feels weird to be in June for some reason.
It's nearly July.
It's nearly July. Where's the summer
Mhm.
gone? It's almost... No,
No.
I'm not
Longest day of the year today. It's
Yeah.
all downhill from now.
Yeah, apparently it is. That's sad. Sad times indeed. No. That can be like that. All right. So, yeah, you're listening to the podcast that is mainly focused on EA, Bioware, and Anthem. And when we can talk about Anthem, we're going to talk about Anthem. And since there was a lot of information that came from EA Play and a lot more surrounding that, especially Gaming Informer and a lot of other news sites have done some interesting coverage when it comes to Anthem. So I think we can talk about quite a lot. Uh, One of the topics that we're going to talk about today is customization and personalization. Is something that I've been digging a little bit in, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And we also found some information about sort of the story of Anthem and a little bit around that as well. If you enjoyed the show, then please send us a email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. The VOD will be able or will be available pretty much straight after the show if you want to watch it on YouTube. And the podcast audio version will be up on Saturday. You can also interact with us and all this stuff if you want to write to us after the show as well. You're more than welcome to. You are more than welcome to. All right, so we're going to start off the conversation. Let's see, I did not miss anything, did I? Yeah, I can just say that we're currently live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer for those who want to know. So we're live on multiple places. Multiple places indeed.
All
And,
around the web.
what?
All around the web.
All around the web. All around the web. And today I only have James with me, if that isn't apparent already.
I know. It's
Yeah.
sad. I'm the only one left. Everybody else is dead.
Well,
Well,
that's a
nearly.
twist.
Not quite. But I'm not dead. I'm still alive.
Yeah, we're not dead, so we're gonna entertain you for the I was gonna say foreseeable future, but for the next hour at least.
Mm.
So, I was talking about customization and personalization, and we had James here a little bit worried beforehand. It's like, well, what do you mean customization and personalization? Well, if you followed the Mark Dara Twitter account that I've talked a lot before, you can take a lot of things from that, and also the other guys over at Bioware and what they have talked about is something that you can take different things from. So when it comes to Anthem, uh, usually when we talk about customization, you think everything that is in tandem with customizing your character. So skins, looks, voices, body size, body height, whatever you can use, like in this case, the javelins, how they look, how they perform, what you can add and what you can take off, and all of that stuff. But they're actually splitting that up in two different terms. So when it comes to customization in Anthem, at least internally, they refer to that as anything that is gameplay changing. So when we're talking about the javelins, the exosuits that you use out in the world, for example, customizing your javelin could mean that you swap out a gadget or a weapon from one thing to another. But personalization, though, is something where you actually change how your javelin looks. So it could be a skin for your javelin. There's various skins for your javelins. I'm gonna see if I can bring that up on the screen later. But there are various skins on the javelins as well that you can pick and choose from, which makes you look very different. But I think there's, like they have said, that there's cosmetics and vanity items in the game, so there might be more than just that. Like we've heard that you have an apartment in game, maybe you can add stuff to that. Maybe you can change stuff how it looks in there. Probably in your Strider as well, which is sort of this little mini base that you have out in the world where you're doing quests, so you don't have to go back to Fort Tarsis, which is the hub in game all the time. Probably is going to be some custom or personalization options there as well. And yeah, so we've also got the information that your pilot, there will be some personalization options when it comes to your pilot. So you can obviously, you're going to be able to choose sex. That's one thing. And you will be able to change your face. That is pretty much it. There will be one voice for each of the sexes, so you can't change anything about that. You can't change body height or how big or small or large you are. Anything like that, from what we know so far, is not changeable. And I think that sort of goes together with you are getting into these um, specialized suits. So I guess you have to sort of be a kind of one size of a person in order to fit in these suits. I don't think.
One size fits no one.
Yeah. So that's the thing as well. So if we're thinking about personalization options of your pilot, except for example, I think we can pretty much make that in the or take that in the same category as previous Bioware games. How do
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
how do you feel
It's.
about the previous? The
I think that they have explored the technology in a very leading, sort of a market leading fashion, and they've had great success in the past, especially with some of the Mass Effect customization options that you've had.
Yeah,
Although, as we have mentioned before, the ability to create someone that is absolutely hideous and the inability to create someone who looks half decent is
yeah,
very prevalent. It'll be interesting to see if that's still an issue.
I hope not.
But as long as they've sorted out the facial animations properly, then the customizations that you put to it should be absolutely fine. I do slightly wonder though, because it's going to be a first person when you're inside the hub, and it's third person when you're outside in your javelin. And when you're in your javelin, you can't see your face, and you don't see your face in first person. So I'm not entirely sure how much time you're going to be spending looking at the face that you've spent hours
Yeah,
creating.
that's one thing. So they've also stated that they have focused more heavily on the personalization of your javelin, which makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Since we do know that in Fort Tarsis, and I would expect in the Strider as well, you're going to play in first person, which makes like, yeah, you're never really gonna see your pilot if there's not a mirror or a reflective surface,
It's going to be
or
everyone else can see your pilot.
yeah. But we do know that like for Tarsus, for example, is a area where you will be yourself only and NPCs. It's sort of your story area, so
Hmm.
that's where the story changes really happen, and the changes in the world depending on what choices and what factions you align with and whatnot. That is where the changes will happen. So there's really no one that will see your pilot. I don't know. I guess maybe they can be in your Strider, but I guess I wouldn't guess so. So I don't know if there's actually any occasion where you see the other people's pilots, only their javelins. But
There may be cutscenes if
yeah,
they
maybe.
render the cutscenes on the fly,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah, might be.
That would be cool. That would be cool to be able to see, your whole team customizations out.
yeah. Yeah, there might be some occasion where there's like an in-game or in-engine cutscene, and your visor pops up so that you can see the pilot underneath. But
Hmm. But you
uh,
like to think that they have given proper development time to screen time that will enable you to see the face that you have customized. Otherwise, there's no point putting all the effort into the development of it.
yeah, yeah. So, but that is also one thing that makes me wonder how intricate and advanced will the customization of your pilot actually be. There might be just a couple of preset faces that you can choose from, because
Mm.
as you said. Actually, if it's that case that you never see your pilot, like there's no real meaning other than for your own self gratification to to customize your pilot. So
I really, really, really want to have blonde hair,
yeah, but
for
that's
example.
obviously gonna be a thing. Like, yeah, you can change the hair color. You can probably change if you're gonna have a long or short hair,
Hmm.
and you can probably change from a couple of different presets. But
I really,
I wouldn't expect it to be anything more than that. I did like the customization in Dragon Age Inquisition. I thought that
mhm.
was. Did you play that the Dragon Age Inquisition?
I did briefly, but not for a huge amount of time, and it was a while ago.
Yeah, but from memory only, I do remember it being quite, yeah, quite intricate, quite advanced for a Bioware game when it comes to customization.
Mm.
So, well, they haven't always ha- been shite at doing that.
You mentioned at the start about being able to choose the gender of your pilot.
Yep.
Have we actually had confirmation that the javelin suits will change to reflect the gender of the pilot?
I'm pretty sure they will not. But I guess there was like one tweet that you could basically make the interpretation towards, uh, like women not being that big, voluptuous, I guess is the word. Uh, so there shouldn't be
Posing
really
this
an
very well.
yeah, yeah. So I guess there shouldn't really be any worry or any real issue with women getting in the same suits as men. There shouldn't be any conflict there, especially if they're same
Mm.
height and the same build.
Yeah, I mean the traditional thing is in video games, and I don't want to get too much into the gender bias in video gaming, but the traditional point is that the male build and a female build of a character in a video game are usually fairly obviously different.
Yeah,
Um, and especially in games like Mass Effect, the male and female characters had significantly different armor suits, for example.
yeah,
Um, and it doesn't mean that they have to go with gender specific javelins, and there's no reason to say that you must do that. But it may be a nice point if you've actually bothered to give the person the option to choose the gender of their character.
yeah,
Then the majority of the time, when they're actually going to see that character, they're not going to be able to see the gender that they've chosen. So it's sort of a mute point,
yeah,
really, and especially since they've confirmed that although you can choose your sex, you won't be able to have sex.
yeah. That's a good
So
point.
it's really sort of aiming and gearing everything down towards being fluff choices. It's all about
Well, yeah,
your own story.
yeah. There is certainly a heavy focus on your story as a freelancer. This sort of mercenary hero of your people going out and solving missions and issues and sort of advancing your people's technology and whatnot. And that seems to be the focus of your character. So I understand that the focus should be more on progressing story and the javelins, since the javelins will be sort of your character, like more than the pilot itself. I feel like the javelin is where you should personify yourself towards, maybe.
Yeah, it's actually where you're having an impact on the game, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It makes sense, but you never know since the game will be pretty heavily focused on some sort of monetization. You can probably expect there to be maybe multiple options down the line. Most of these games, I feel like, later, if not at launch, introduce some sort of yeah, a way for you to be able to change whatever you've done in the past. So especially if they add more options to customizing your pilot, if there's a reason for you to be able to customize your pilot, uh, then if they add more options to that, then you're probably going to have the options to be able to change that later down the line. But they have also stated that you will not have a reason to make more than one pilot. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting that the choice of pilot doesn't then dictate your class, your character class within the game.
Yeah.
Very much your character class is dictated by the javelin suit that you have chosen in any one particular mission. We can
Yeah.
probably come on to javelins a little bit later, so I won't expand too much right now. I don't want to spoil your thunder.
Yeah, but it's interesting here, and I'm working on trying to get some footage up on the screen. But we've also seen something that I thought was interesting while we're still on the topic of personalization and customization, is that we've seen skins with the N7 logo on, which makes me okay that they're that blatant about that being a thing in the game. So that they have that sort of wink towards the Mass Effect universe, which makes me speculate in a lot of ways. A lot of ways.
Do you want to expand on your speculation?
Yeah, well, I had this theory in the chat.
Oh,
Let's see here if I can in our crew chat. So let's see if I can get
fanfic coming up.
Yeah, so basically, I've been working on this theory ever since we've gotten to know more about the universe that is Anthem, that the Mass Effect universe and the Anthem universe, in some form or fashion, actually tied to each other. That's because they've made some statements. For example, if they have stated, "Is this an alternate universe to ours?" And he when they got this question, the guy I think his name is Gamble. He laughed and he said that he can't answer that. So we know that it's not going to be like the Mass Effect universe is based on our universe, since it's humanity have advanced a lot, and then we're in space and we meet these aliens and we advance immensely, and when it comes to technology and all that. So Mass Effect is basically the same universe as we are, even though it's far in the future. So the avoidance of that question makes it think, okay, so we're basically in the same universe as we are, since he can't say that it's an alternate universe for some reason. But they've also stated that the humans on this planet have not gotten to this planet on sort of colonization ship or something like that, but they have, I guess they haven't really stated how humans ended up where they actually are. So this is where you can speculate pretty much freely. Maybe humans evolved on this planet, which makes it weird if humans evolved on two different planets in the universe at well, not the same time, but it's not impossible when you when you think about the universe and the theories around that. Certainly not impossible. But one theory that leads me to believe is that when we have this universe, or we have this world, and in this world, when you go out and do quests, it's a lot about these beings that are called shapers that apparently aren't there anymore. At least they're not aware of them being on the planet anymore, but they've left these massive artifacts that are affecting the environment around you. And my sort of guess here, or my theory, is that the shaper items or the shapers themselves has something to do with the Mass Effect universe. Like they're tied in together in there somewhere. Maybe the shapers were people who tried to, or some other race from the Mass Effect universe who tried to colonize this planet or tried to do some experiment with this planet, and it didn't really go as they wanted to, and they just went out of there. Because they also have this thing in the game where the world, or at least as the inhabitants interpret the world, is that the gods tried to do something, or they tried to shape the world, but they never finished it, and that's why it's sort of in a state of chaos, and there's so much happening in this world. So yeah, I don't think I can go further with that thesis, but I'm just getting hints here and there that they don't want to dismiss the idea of our universe being connected to the Anthem universe, and therefore maybe the Mass Effect universe being connected in some way. And also the just blatant just putting in N7 skins for your the Javelins like that. That might just be fan service, and that might be reading, but it feels like okay, that should be something that is a lot more hidden. If it's
They're just
just
deliberately stoking the rumor mill.
yeah, yeah. But if it's if the universes are not connected at all, then it's only fanfare. Then I feel like that stuff that is connected to Mass Effect and the stuff that you can see in Mass Effect should be hidden a lot more. So yeah,
There are multiple fan theories out there relating to the Mass Effect universe, whereby the Reaper splinter groups have gone off and created whole worlds and
yeah.
galaxies and solar systems
The,
in
the
their
possibility is certainly there. Like since
yeah.
the Reaper technology, that's got to come from somewhere, and we really don't know who created the Reapers. There could be more advanced species out there, like these Shapers could have something to do with the Reapers in tandem. So
Mm.
that could be
It,
something that happened. I don't know.
they could very much be somehow related in some form to Leviathan, which
Yeah,
of course was related to in one of the Mass Effect 3 DLCs.
actually, I've
Um,
never played Leviathan, so
okay, well,
if you just want to make a quick recap of
spoiler alert
yeah,
for anyone who hasn't played and
spoilers.
wants to. But then again, to be brutally honest, if you haven't played it, you're probably not going to at this point in time, but you should have done. So essentially, the Leviathan DLC explained how there were these artifacts, which were spherical orbs, which have been found dotted around throughout the galaxy. And nobody seemed to understand what these orbs were, but the orbs were able to emit mind controlling techniques almost. They were able to take control of people. After further investigation and battling, it became apparent that it, the orbs were being used as a portal. They were being used as a portal by forces unknown to interact with life beings, and that could be any type of being, not just humans, on the other side, if you like, actually in the galaxy. And where they were being controlled from, nobody knew. But it all came to a head when a derelict Reaper ship was found by the Batarians. And the larger implication of this was not what on earth is a derelict Reaper ship, but more what on earth was able to kill a Reaper.
Yeah,
And the combination of these spherical orbs with mind controlling techniques, which we know the Reapers are able to use,
yeah,
combined with something that has killed a Reaper, has led people to believe that there is an apex predator out there, nothing short of a Reaper killer, and it is using these orbs somehow to further its own goal. So you follow this, you follow the mystery, you follow the story, you unlock clues, you talk to people, and throughout the DLC. And whilst you're doing this, you realize that the Reaper forces are sort of running alongside in tandem with yourself, trying to find Leviathan as well. Obviously, they're coming at it from a different angle because it's attacking them.
yeah,
And your search eventually leads you to a derelict planet. I say a derelict planet, it's a planet that's got no habitation on it. And you drop down into the oceans and you go literally right down to the ocean floor, um, where you are confronted with a being called Leviathan, which is, without wanting to, go too much into it, is essentially it's like an organic Reaper. It looks like a Reaper, but it's very much an organic being. It's not an AI.
all right,
And this Leviathan tells you how it is the apex being in the galaxy. It is the top predator, if you like.
yeah,
When it was in power, it controlled the entire galaxy, and all other races basically bent to its will.
all right,
Um, and it watched as other species grew, and it helped to, I say it helped, it kind of forced them to do its bidding. But it realized that what was happening was the organic species were evolving and they were creating artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence was eventually rising up against to kill the organics that created them, and they had this chaos that was a constant cycle of perpetuating chaos and violence.
Yeah,
So
that is sort of the plot of the whole Mass Effect franchise, I would guess. That's
yeah,
why the Reapers
yeah,
are there.
exactly. So so Leviathan decided it would create a solution to end this chaos, and its solution was to create an intelligence, and this intelligence would be responsible for ensuring the balance of order in the universe. Unfortunately, the intelligence decided the best way to do that was to evolve organics to the point where they were going to start creating this artificial intelligence and then kill them
Yeah.
and wipe the slate clean and then let more organics rise up. And it essentially let organic evolution take it up to a certain level and then it stopped, cut it off, cut the head off the snake and then let it go again.
All right.
And it created the cycle and it worked out how to do this most efficiently. And every time it came to the end of the cycle, which was every 50,000 years in Mass Effect, um, it would rise up, kill the advanced organic civilizations. It would harvest their essence, if you like,
Yeah.
into its own form to preserve it because it
Ah.
didn't want to completely destroy it. It would preserve it. And the way it preserved it was to create a Reaper. So every cycle ended with the birth of a new Reaper.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there one of the Mass Effect games where you had a human-like Reaper? Uh,
Yes. So
End
in
of
the end
Mass
of Mass
Effect
Effect,
2, yeah.
it was indeed, yes, the end of Mass Effect 2, whereby the collectors were harvesting humans and to break down their material essence, if you like, their bodies, decompose them into grey fluid. It was described as, which was then used to become the life essence of a new Reaper.
Yeah.
So this was the start of the end of the cycle. And when you came across it, the Reaper was pretty much just an embryo. It
Yeah.
was in its very early phase, and it was that way that you were able
Yeah, that was why
to
you
destroy
were.
it.
Yeah, that was why you were really able to fight it in the first place.
Mm.
No, but yeah, but that just makes you think like the universe in Mass Effect is more vast than just the galaxies or the galaxy you're um
Yes,
in the Mass
very
Effect.
much so.
So
It is.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very much it's talked about that there are multiple different galaxies out there, but pretty much the whole of the main Mass Effect trilogy is all centered around the one galaxy that we
yeah,
are in.
but
It
that
helps
that,
keep
that was
everything local.
yeah, so that was sort of a thing with the Andromeda, which I think they wanted to create with these branching paths, basically. So who
Mm,
knows? Maybe Anthem is just one of those branching paths in the same universe. Certainly a possibility. We do know that there are no real alien races, and you're only going to be on one planet in this game. And the scars that we have seen are somehow connected to these shapers, or they're created by these shapers, or they're working for these shapers, but they're basically indigenous humanoids that are opposing the humans on this planet. So we know
mm,
that much. But yeah, it's fun to theorize upon because they're already building ways for you to speculate around the world, and it feels like this world in itself, regarding or tying this together with Andromeda, which was not, or they didn't have the time to build that into a really standout game, really. So because of the troubled development cycle, or the development time they had there. But since it seems like it's been pretty of a smooth ride with Anthem, one might think that the world, the story, and the lore, and the where everything comes from, or all of that, should be pretty it should be pretty fleshed out already, which makes me
Mm.
quite excited. Because even if it's less story focused than Mass Effect was, for example, it's still probably going to be quite an enjoyable experience in terms of story and lore and all that. And I'm a lot for that, even if I have to do my own digging.
I certainly hope so. I love a game with a good story. And there was a scare a while back where the lead writer for Anthem left Bioware
Yeah,
a few months ago now.
Drew Karpchen left a few months ago, but a lot of people
Yeah.
are suggesting that he finished what he had to do on Anthem, and then
Mm.
he just
Yeah.
wanted to work on other stuff. So, um, well, it certainly looked bad on paper, but if it actually was bad in practice, we don't really know.
No. Typical internet blowing up at the sight of a headline rather than reading too much more into it.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh, on the topic of Mass Effect, one thing that was interesting, I recently came across a couple of interviews from Game Informer, which went more into the world of Anthem than anything else that we've seen so far. Also, than what they are doing currently on Twitter and whatnot. For some reason,
Mm.
uh, they feel like they could say more to Game Informer than anyone else. But there was some information that we could take from there. For one example, was that Casey Hudson, who was the lead over at Bioware even before, where when Mass Effect was just a child and that franchise, and apparently the original idea that, or the original dream they had for the Mass Effect franchise was what they're doing with Anthem currently. They wanted to create a RPG that you could share with a friend, uh, in the similar form or fashion that you're doing in Anthem, but they didn't have the technology or they didn't have the development skills to create that experience, and that's why we got Mass Effect instead, this single player concept. So the
Right.
idea
Okay.
of the co-op shared world idea of Anthem has been there even since before the original Mass Effect 1 game, which is interesting because this points towards them actually thinking about this idea of Anthem and the concept of Anthem for a very long time. I mean, had a lot
It
of time to
does.
sort of perfect make that.
And it raises the sort of the rumor mill um, around how much has that original thought, that original desire influenced the Mass Effect storyline
Yeah,
and the idea
it's
behind
and
Mass Effect, or vice versa. Has was Mass Effect storyline the original idea for what Anthem was, that
yeah,
original aim of what we wanted, and then we've had to develop a new story for Anthem, which would agree with why the two seem to be very close.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. Because it seemed like from Casey Hudson's word that when they were developing Mass Effect 1, they were trying to figure out ways to make it a experience that you could share with friends, like have ways for you to be able to connect to each other's games or something like that, but they just didn't have the infrastructure back then to be able to do something like that. So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting to see that. Well, it certainly points towards Anthem and the concept of Anthem and the idea and the world and whatnot, not being something that has been thrown together in the last 5 years, or how long the game has been in development, but it's probably been cooking and being processed and whatnot for uh, maybe up to 2 decades. So yeah,
I don't know when they started working on the original Mass Effect.
yeah.
It came out in 2007, so that's 11 years ago now. If you assume it's probably was in development for 3 years,
Yeah, well, let's say
maybe.
15 to 7 years. I don't know how long Mass Effect was in development. Like the original title can have, like, I don't know what they officially started development, but there's probably was ideas even before they started Bioware and they started development over there,
Mm.
that were on just on paper. So, but yeah, let's say 15 years ago. So the concept of this was forming already back then. And something that we could take from these videos, also when we're touching on story and also connecting to Mass Effect, says Mass Effect is very much heavily based when it comes to choices and choices that matter, and you being able to form your own world or your own environment around you depending on what kind of choices you make. And that seems to be like it's going to very much be a thing in Anthem as well. One hint that they gave us was that there is multiple ways to complete certain quests. For example, if there's a fetch quest and you kill something and you get a device from that monster or in that area that the monster is or something like that, probably a scenario that we're going to see in the game, then you can take that device and you can leave that device or turn that device in to multiple factions, and that will sort of make you more popular with the guy that obviously got the device, but maybe less popular with some other factions that wanted this as well, which will form the way that NPCs will interact with you in the world and sort of how they talk to you and things like that. So that certainly
Mhm.
points towards the same concepts that we had back in in the Mass Effect era of how they wanted to tell the story. So yeah, still, if you're a Mass Effect fan, I think that is something that is going to speak to you. It's not something that they've talked a lot about. Been very quiet about it so far. I'm just hoping to see even more about it. But this is the first real hint towards a, RPG like um, quest system or NPC interaction system uh, that we
Yeah,
were unsure of if it was actually going to be a thing in Anthem or not.
yeah. E3 and EA Play have really helped to solidify what people's suspicions were with regarding to how Fort Tarsis, the hub system, is
Yeah,
going to work, and what you can and what you can't do outside of that. For
yeah,
example, now they've confirmed there's no PvP, so there's no sort of just flying out of a group of mates to go stomp all over some other freelancers.
yeah,
Um, it's it's very much off you go with your friends,
yeah,
go into an instance of an area
yeah,
and do a quest or a dungeon or
yeah.
whatever.
And they also said that the world will be changing in that way, but mostly only in sections where you, the player, are visiting that place alone. So the world shouldn't change too much depending on how far along you're in the quest chain, and if you're playing with someone who just started, the world should look pretty much the same. It's just if you do the same quest together, then you will get slightly different dialogue and stuff like that depending on how you've interacted with the NPCs that
Mm-hmm.
are uh, relevant to this mission. So that would be a thing. But yeah, so the outside Fort Tharsis, everything will be, yeah, quite the shared worlds, quite the same thing. And they've also stated like if there's nighttime, I'm not entirely sure if it's nighttime, but if there's, I think they've confirmed that there were seasons, there were changing weather and things like that, and the whole game syncs in that way that if there's rain or bad weather for one player and they're out in the world, it should be rain and bad weather for every player that's out in the world that current time, which is pretty cool. So they synced the
Yeah,
service in that way to have the same
that's
seasons
going to
and
put a hell of a strain on the server hardware.
yeah, but yeah, but you just need to sync every server, I guess, to have the same inform or display the same information at the same time, and
Have they
probably
said if there's
got
going
some.
to be a day-night cycle?
That was something that while I was talking, I was like, did they confirm that there was day night cycle, or was it only weather and sort of seasons and things like that? I think it
I
was
just
more
wonder
like,
if they had day-night cycle, whether or not they had an equivalence to time zones across the world.
yeah. I mean, day and night cycles could be cool in the game. I would like to fly around during the night, out in
Mm.
the world, having like headlights on your javelin, sort of get that spooky feeling going. I think that
We're
could be
getting
pretty
stopped
cool.
by law enforcement javelins for having one headlight out.
Yeah. Um, So while you're out on the missions, we can just I made some note from these videos, and this is not something new. We know that, or we knew before that you were going to have someone along you on your missions, which is called a cipher, so sort of your sidekick that supports you on the missions and give you updates and information. That will be in your Strider, which is your little movable or mobile fortress base that you use while you're out on missions in the world. So that's one thing. And I've actually written down personal relationships here. We know that there's not going to be romance, but the way that the choices actually matter with the people in Fortages will make you able to form personal relationships, at least with the NPCs in the area. So if you are more if you're more supportive of one NPC over the other, then yeah, you're gonna have a better relationship with that guy, and they're probably gonna get treated a little bit differently, get maybe some other rewards than if you went with another faction or another NPC and whatnot. So yeah, personal relationships will be a thing, even though romance will not be a thing at launch. Um,
Yeah, very much that goes hand in hand with the faction mechanics that you were talking about earlier.
yeah, and yeah, as I said, the out in the world will not change, but the dialogue that the players hear could be different because the context, uh, in regards to the NPCs, will be different. So you could have a mission for one of the pilots, they say, for example, um, the NPC that gave you that mission that you're out on together, maybe he likes one of the pilots because you've had a good relationship in the past. You will hear slightly a different dialogue than someone who's been, yeah, not so friendly with that person in the past. So,
Although it's unlikely it's going to go to the point where an NPC would refuse to speak to a certain member of the party if they pissed
yeah,
them off enough.
that would
That
be,
probably won't happen.
yeah, it would be weird if that would be a thing because then one of your teammates will not be able to take the missions while the others will be. So, I don't think
Mm.
that would work. So you wouldn't be, uh, yeah, they're probably not going to lock you out in that way. But that's just good, I think. I think that just the rewards at the end might be a little bit different since we
They've
know.
been very tight-lipped over the end game. They really are not talking anything about that, are they? Not
No,
even on Mark Dara's Twitter is it talking about the end game.
no.
Although I have
Well,
to
I
admit,
think
I'm very
well,
impressed with whoever he's hired to run his Twitter account because he's been a very busy boy.
yeah. Um, agreed. Well, like they have hinted, or they have gotten a lot of questions. What do you do once you complete the story? And they've said like that there will be a lot of things that you can do after you completed the story in order to continue playing. And also, since this game will be a live service that they will support for years and years to come, there will be more story elements and more things being added along the way all the time, so that there will be more things happening in the world. And that's certainly something that we get a lot from when you read the tweets and the different answers, that they've really created this world that they can add stuff to basically any system without breaking or making that an issue. Uh, so they've sort of designed the whole game around, yeah, okay, there's no romance um, at launch, but we we're not dismissing the possibilities as we're adding at launch to almost every answer there is. So I think
Mm,
that is also a pretty cool thing in regards to how they've developed the game so far. The
yeah.
more that I hear about the game, it's giving me more hope. I just want to hear more about the story. I want to hear more about the world and the anthem of creation, which
Mm,
they're talking about, which we don't really know what it is, but it has something to do with the shapers and some
yeah.
something about that.
The potential for lots of really juicy information about the backstory of the world and the pilot themselves,
Yeah.
and the freelancers as well. Although how far that story is actually going to progress is somewhat up in the air,
Yeah.
especially with the answers that they've been giving so far about how much playability there's going to be and how much content there's going to be after the supposed end game, um, and how they want to progress the storyline further with DLC down the line. Um, it does suggest that there isn't going to be a huge change, a huge monumental shift change,
No.
in
It's,
the story of the game as it is at release, at
yeah.
launch,
Well, you never know.
basically.
Like there might be at the end, like, hey, suddenly there's a Reaper there. That could be something. I like
It's
that.
just like descending from the sky. It's like
Yeah.
surprise.
Surprise, motherfuckers.
I'm
uh,
back, bitches.
yeah. Um. Let's see here. The thing I do believe that they want to keep a lot of secrets about the story and the world so far, because that seems to be the meat of the game, where as if you go out and do missions and learn more about the world, I do think they want you to be sort of awed about what they have created and what's there. So that might be certainly one of the reasons why they're not currently talking that a lot about the story and things like that. It seems like they don't want to spoil anything for the players, which yeah, we've
Well, they've
only
certainly
got
gone to great lengths to show us some really beautiful scenery.
yeah, scenery and gameplay, and also everyone I've read impressions of that actually played the gameplay demo they had at the EA Play saying that the gameplay is amazing, which is a really good indication that it probably will be a lot of fun to do grinding and do missions together and all that. Like it feels really good flying around over in the world, and also it seems to be pretty mobile in how the gameplay actually plays, because they've stated that it will not be a cover shooter like Mass Effect.
Mm.
For the most part, was Andromeda sort of stepped away a little bit from that, but it will be more focused on movement and dodging different attacks and things like that, and also something that we can see in. I wonder if I can actually get that up. That could be pretty cool. There's
Well, they were very careful, weren't they, in their responses to questions about cover-based shooting, to not say that there isn't cover-based shooting,
yeah,
but to say that they felt that combat should be fluid,
yeah,
which suggests that they've at least tried to move it away from the cover-based shooting that isn't particularly nice to play, especially in a multiplayer environment.
yeah.
Um, but suggests that there will be an element of it, and I think there always will be.
Yeah. Currently, I'm not finding the scene in the EA footage of the gameplay demo where there are apparently these creatures out in the world that are called Titans, which are really dangerous, big stone, lava, fiery things that are, well, uh, calling them giants is an understatement, but
They were
uh,
leviathans.
Leviathans, yeah, yeah. Twist. Um, but there's one scene there where he goes towards the Titan and he shoots his rocket salvo, and then when he gets attacked by this Titan, he sort of makes this little rotation in the air to make a quick turn
Mm.
to the side, and that just looks so cool. I like the focus on mobility there, all even while you're doing combat in the air. Um,
Yeah, the aerial combat does look as if they
there we
spent
go.
a
On
good
the
amount of
street,
time on it,
yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah, on the
Um,
stream right now, that's where I'm talking about. When he almost gets hit, he makes this sort of rotation in the air. That's pretty cool.
yes, I'm just
So
watching it now. Actually, it's
yeah, so from what we know,
very beautiful.
apparently the gameplay feels pretty snappy. The the flying is feels really well, but also quite easy. A lot of people who said like I'm really clumsy when it comes to play games, but I had no trouble like navigating and flying and going through the air and whatnot. Which well, it's a good thing if you want to get skilled at the action in the game. I would say so. Yeah, one on the screen right now as well. When we talked about shapers and relics, one of the things they're doing here in this mission is that there is a big shaper relic that for some reason is going a little bit crazy and is activated and makes the area uh, well, it changes the area, sort of maybe spawns creatures or changes the layout of the map or makes everything a little bit different. So since
Yeah,
that creates chaos, then the humans want to close those down. Now, if that's a good or a bad thing, I think that is,
it's a very typical human reaction, isn't it?
yeah,
There's something big doing something and we can't control it. Let's stop it.
yeah. So there's an interesting element to this. We discussed this a little bit before the podcast as well, but it's interesting to see that the humans are really human in the game, and one of the things as the plot is that this world was left by the gods unfinished, is that is the interpretation of the humans in this world.
Mm,
Since there's this big devices and it's chaos, these big devices turn on and off, and there's a lot of like there seems to be no real order. There seems to be a lot of chaos in this world, and that's why the interpretation there is that the gods left this world unfinished and just left it for everyone to fend for
it's
themselves.
interesting that as far as the story goes, that the humans have come to that decision. Because
Yeah,
if you think about it, the, the gods that put these structures in place were there, possibly millions of years ago, certainly before the humans were around. And so
yeah,
the humans have only ever known the world to be in the shape it's in. So why they would necessarily think that it is unfinished as opposed to slightly derelict is an interesting choice.
yeah.
And it'd be
And
interesting to see if that statement then bears any realization in future reveals.
yeah. And one statement that also was quite interesting is that the world and the people in it on this planet, they're not necessarily like the civilizations are more primitive than our civilizations today now.
They
But
don't have Uber.
no, they don't. And they have very basic like the structure of civilization is very basic. For example, these javelins are handcrafted one by one. They don't have the assembly lines where they push out robots and whatnot. They engineer these from these shaper technologies that they find, and they engineer these by hand. An engineer actually has to build one. There's not. They don't have any robotics to help them build like you would expect from like the universe that is Mass Effect. Like those guys are way more advanced than we are, and their robotics and technology are probably a lot more built by machines. So
Mm.
I like that concept. Like, yeah, they have weapons and suits that are a lot more advanced than we have now today. But the society, the civilization itself, is even more primitive than we are currently. So there's this
Mm.
dissonance there between.
And that really sort of suggests that society as itself has never found itself in a consistent state of
Yeah,
peace where it can naturally evolve society. And instead, it's constantly been under threat, it's been at war, it's been besieged. And through necessity, they have then they've had to develop down the robotic, the scientific, the weaponized route to a much greater detail.
yeah. So it reminds me of the Krogans.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting correlation to draw there, Sarge,
Yeah,
because the Krogans, of course, were a very primitive race, but of course very aggressive and liked conflict and fighting, but were then lifted up by the Solarians.
Yeah.
When the Solarians found them, lifted up, and then gave them all this extra stuff. So it's going to be quite interesting to see actually through the game as to whether or not most of your technology has been gifted to you by maybe the Shapers or the
Yeah.
gods in some sort of indirect way.
I would guess that it's not. Yeah, in the indirect way, it's not like the Krogans and the Solarians where they basically use the Krogans for their own
Mm.
benefit to try to further their own goal in that war. But here it seems like, yeah, they tried to do something with this planet. Apparently, they couldn't stick around for some reason, and the humans there were left to just, yeah, try to fend for themselves, and they, yeah, managed to use this technology in their favor to be able to progress and survive.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So it may have been found like the Prothean outpost on Mars.
yeah, yeah. There, like we're saying here, there's a lot of points you can take from this world that we're seeing right now and point towards Mass Effect and say, yeah, that's similar. Yeah, that's similar. That it sounds like it's pretty much,
Mm.
yeah. So there's a lot of ideas that are quite similar. Uh,
Or
Certainly.
alternatively, it could be that, like with the Citadel and the mass relays, humanity is merely evolving along the paths that have been put down and defined by the the higher beings, if you
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. But whatever it is, it certainly intrigues me. Like, I'm
Mm.
a big lore guy, and I certainly want to figure out the secrets of this universe. It's going to be interesting to see how much of the secrets and how much of the store and how much of the lore we are going to be able to get and access at launch, and see if there's like they might just okay, the end of the story at launch might be, okay, this is the real threat. Now we really know what's going on here.
Mm.
But there might be no real progression, sort of, and that's where they bump out things to progress that further along later on, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, but then again, fan fiction isn't always bang on the money. I mean, you
No.
look at the amount of fan fiction that came out before Star Wars Episode 8
I'd love,
about.
yeah, that's sorry for interrupting you, but just going back to
Yeah.
Mass Effect, I love the fan theories on Mass Effect 3's ending of and what it really meant. There were so many different theories going around with that, just because everyone hated that ending, and so people had to
Everyone's trying
make
to
their,
make it better.
yeah, people had to make their better, and certainly some of them were really nice, like really intricate, and they had thought about it a lot. You could,
Did you see the Mass Effect 3 happy ending?
well, s- taking up a spoiler warning here for anyone who's listening. Was that the one where they were at the planet in the end, or was there another happy ending?
That was the one where everybody got to stay together. It was put together and they used clipped footage from all three games to get the dialogue.
Oh right, was it a video or was it
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. No, I haven't seen
I'll
that
have
one.
to find it and see if I can put a link in chat.
Yeah, you certainly have to. That intrigues me. But no, I did see all the different endings, and also that was the poorest attempt ever. They did push out an update for Mass Effect 3 further on down the line to complement and sort of improve on the original uh, ending, but like it said nothing else. They just added like, okay, this is what happens, and this is what happens to the other factions, and they carried on their life like it was basically nothing. They didn't improve it at all. Uh, but I did hear also that Mass Effect 3 had an entirely different ending, and due to development time not being as long as they wanted to, they had to scrap that and go for the ending that we got. All right, so that's actually everything for the first segment of the show. So the last segment, we usually recommend something for you guys to do until next week. So we have something to do until we talk again next week. Next week there will actually be no podcast because I will not be available. So we're gonna push it up to the week after that, and that also makes us able to make some YouTube videos and whatnot. Maybe a live stream or two. We'll just have to see what we'll come up with. Uh, but uh, so James, do you have
Yes.
something
Sorry,
sort?
I'm still trying to find
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Sorry.
I see that you were sort of lost
Sorry,
in
I'm
thought.
sitting there somewhere.
Do you have something for the last segment that you can recommend? Yeah, I guess the video that you're trying to find, the made up ending of Mass Effect 3.
Yes, I will definitely get around to putting that up. Just a quick one, really. It was a notice to all PlayStation gamers that Black Ops 3 is available for free download
Yeah.
from the PlayStation Store at the moment. So if you don't have a copy but you do have a PlayStation, get on there and download it because it won't be free forever.
No, that's good to know.
Mm.
Always like free games.
Yes, and it's not another one is not it's not a free game anymore. It was, but it's now chargeable. It's a game called Totally Accurate Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Have
Have you
you
played that?
I haven't played it. I am toying with the idea of buying it. It's still buggy, and the idea
Oh,
of
you missed the free window. There was a window where
yeah,
that
I
game was
did.
that was free.
Unfortunately, I did miss a free window.
Alright.
The idea of buying it when it's still as buggy as I know it is kind of jars with me a bit, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
From what I have seen of the game, it looks utterly hilarious.
Yeah. There's
I
also
really want
one
to pick
game
it up.
that is free. That is a battle royale game that was a joke that actually made it to an actual game, which was there's a game. There's a World War II shooter that a developer is doing. I don't remember the name as of yet. They haven't done any added campaigns for it, and it's in pre-alpha. But the developers there, just because of the battle royale hype, made a joke about cuisine royale. So, and they actually made a game out of it, and apparently it's free right now. So, Cuisine Royale. And the thing about that game is that they're using the assets from this upcoming World War II game. So there's old World War II timey weapons, and there's like one or two a little bit more modern weapons. Like I think there's an AK-47, but all the armor in the game is pans and plates and everything that you can find in a kitchen. There's no real armor. And you're just running around in your boxers with like like a yeah,
Awesome.
like a pad on your head and stuff on your body and things like that. And people drop a lot of food when you kill them, so you can eat a lot of food. And I think that is how you heal yourself and whatnot. And it's actually not that bad because it's built upon this game. Would guess this game system that they already have for this upcoming World War II game, which seems to be pretty nice. So I think that one's free right now. Is probably pretty buggy as well, so in some sort of alpha state. But that is my recommendation for you guys to check that out. So if you didn't get totally accurate battlegrounds during its free window, then you should certainly check that one out as well. Um,
Oh, awesome.
yeah. Totally Accurate Battlegrounds, by the way, is also in the same vein of just a really silly idea of a game that actually became quite fun. So the characters themselves are rag dolls, and the physics on these rag dolls are not realistic. You're basically just bouncing around everywhere. And yeah, but the shooting mechanics actually look surprisingly good in the game. So yeah, two battle royale games as a recommendation this week.
We all love the battle royale genre,
Yeah,
clearly.
and just to tie back to previous recommendations, Deep Rock Galactic, I played that with Chrome. They've added perks and whatnot, so that's something to check out. And also I'm continuing to listen to Stormlight Archives, which I recommended a couple of episodes back. That is certainly a book series that I can recommend as well if you want to go on the
So,
reading streak.
just as a very quick one, I have managed to find one of the happy ending videos, and I've linked it into the YouTube chat and also the Twitch chat as well. So if you're watching, you can be able
Awesome.
to find that. It's one of many because the people who created it did many different versions of the chat for. Did many different versions of the happy ending video for the different romance options that you had
Yeah.
in the game. So this is just one of those chosen. There are others. If you have a particularly favourite romance combination that you'd like to see in
Yeah.
a different style ending, then go for it.
All right, cool. That's nice. All right, so that's going to be it for the Go.Live Gaming Podcast this week. If you enjoyed the show, then please leave us a email at feedback@gunsofanthem.com. And also, if you want to watch the show and you weren't able to watch the show live, then it will be available in a VOD form on YouTube as soon as this show is over. And the podcast version, the more processed, the more crisp, the more sexy audio-wise version of the show will be available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and your podcast app of choice. Certainly, I think we're on Stitcher as well. I think I linked my or our RSS feed there, so that's the thing if you use that. And yeah, and so no show next week, but off the week after that, there's going to be a show again. Hopefully, going to have some videos until then. So don't forget to interact with us on social medias as well. There's many places you can interact with us and say hello, and we always
All over the
enjoy
web.
that. All over the web. You can probably find us somewhere in some corner of most sites and forums and whatnot. So yeah,
We'll be there.
we'll be
Facebook
there.
/ Guns of Anthem, at Guns of Anthem, Twitter handle Guns of Anthem,
Yeah.
Twitch handle Guns of Anthem.
Yeah,
Rather.
that's a
Right.
good rule to remember. Like, if you just add /Guns of Anthem to almost any social media page and site.
YouTube / Guns of Anthem. We're all there.
Yeah. So,
All there.
all
Like,
there.
share, subscribe, follow, blah blah blah. All
Blah, blah,
the
blah.
other connectors that you can do.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye, everybody.